Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast live Sunday morning edition. Yes. We got a pretty good show lined up for you today, and I'm pretty excited to deliver that to you. And we're gonna get to that shortly. As you can see by the rundown, we got some good topics. At least I think some good topics. Obviously, you all know by now I love college football. I'm a huge college football fan. It doesn't hurt that the Irish are playing for the national championship this year for the first time since 2012. So 12 years, and we'll get to that later. But definitely wanted to just talk about some different things going on in the world of college football. Obviously, first one being transfer portal and NIL and how they have seemingly just shaken up everything along with the 12-team playoff. So, that's going to be really good to discuss. Then we're going to discuss, is Notre Dame and by extension, head coach Marcus Freeman, the biggest story in college football this year? I would tend to think so, but I'm sure there would be some pushback on that. And I have an idea what the argument would be for a different story. Then we're going to talk about what you saw on the thumbnail, and that's who was more influential, Allen Iverson or Kobe Bryant. And that's really courtesy of a discussion that Bruce from the chat and I had maybe a couple of days ago, and it was a really good discussion, and I enjoyed it. So I thought that it would make a really good topic and segment for this show. So thank you for that, Bruce. Appreciate you, man. And finally, of course, we're going to have to talk about the Baltimore Ravens sending home the Pittsburgh Steelers from the playoffs yet again. I tell you, it's even more gratifying to win your opening round playoff game when you do it at home versus your hated rival, and you send them home knowing that it's going to be another long summer, right? Because just as much as the Ravens and the Ravens fans are happy that they sent Pittsburgh home, Pittsburgh is going to be really upset that they got sent home by the Ravens. That makes it like even worse, right? It could have been anybody else, but your hated division rival, it just makes it terrible. So all these are great topics we have to discuss. So we are going to do that in just a little bit. But before we get to it, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast. We should come right up. We're available wherever you get your audio podcasts. If you enjoy the content, please make sure you give it a like, a 5-star review, and leave a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us, and tune in Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock for the Format Podcast live. Make sure you mark it down, put it on your calendar, put it in your phones. And finally, if you're truly enjoying the content, make sure you join the channel. We're working to help this channel grow, and we're going to have some special stuff just for you. All right. And even before we get going with the quick hits, quick shout out to my guy, Laker Nation, first ever member of the channel. And It's Not That Serious, second member of the channel. Don't worry, I didn't forget you guys. That special members only content is coming. So thanks a lot for joining. I'm glad you guys are here, and I appreciate your support. You guys have been, most of you guys who listen have been here with me from day one, man. So just keep spreading the channel, keep letting people know about it, keep tuning in, keep arguing in the chat and doing all the things that we do to make this a great experience and continuing to grow this Format Podcast family and community, man. I really appreciate y'all. I mean, y'all know that some of y'all are becoming friends to me even offline. We talk, we share stuff and it's good, man. And that's the beauty of sports. I'm going to digress real quick before I even get into the quick hits and the topics. That's the beauty of sports, because in a time when our country and I suppose our world is ever more and more divided, sports can bring us all together, right? We might have different religions, different races, different political ideologies, all that, right? But for a few hours, when you're watching the game, somebody could be totally different than you, completely on the opposite side of the aisle on everything. But if you guys are both Ravens fans, or you're both Steelers fans, or Irish fans, or whatever fans you are, you got Lakers fans, Celtics fans, you guys can dap each other up, slap five, whatever you want to call it. For those 3 hours, you could be the best friends in the world. You know what I'm saying? Repping for that team together, or just on the whole, you can bond over your love of sports. No matter who your team is. Your team could be arch enemies, but you guys can have that together. So that's the beauty of sports, man. If we allow it to, it can bring people together. And that's kind of, what I've been trying to and hoping to create, not just being on here, bloviating, as Stephen A. Smith loves to say, running off my mouth, but really trying to create a community and a Format Podcast family that we can be on here together, kicking it, enjoying sports talk, some spirited debates sometimes, and just, doing that, man, because it's all love. All right, let's go ahead and, excuse me, we will move on to this because y'all know I had to get this in here. Thursday night, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish punched their ticket to the national championship game for the first time since the 2012-2013 season, when they were number one in the country, ranked number one, and they faced Alabama in the national championship game in Miami and got dog walked, mollywhopped, monkey stomped, whatever you want to say, just got destroyed 42-14 by a team that was just physically, tactically, whatever way you want to say, superior to the Irish. Just, there's no question about it. That was a tough one for me. I remember I was in Korea at the time, and one of my soldiers, he was an Alabama guy, and I was in the office working. And so it's like 10 o'clock in the morning over there when this game is playing, and it was showing on the Armed Forces Network. And like every time Bama would score, he just kept running in the office. Hey, so hope. And I'm like, why does he keep running in here like seemingly every minute, But that's how Bama was just dominating. And that was an Irish team that had come in with the number one scoring defense in the country and all that, but they just were no match. And, so you have that. And then overall, Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship since 1988. They hadn't won a major bowl game in forever. This year was the first year that they've done that. I want to say like 36 years, something like that. And so, yeah, a lot of big moves taking place, right? So let's go down the timeline on this a little bit, and then I'll get some thoughts from G. So it starts out, Notre Dame has a huge game at Texas A&M Kyle Field on the road to start the season, and that was huge. I think there was 107,000 in the house for that one. Marcus Freeman leads his men in there, and Notre Dame comes out with a huge win to open the season. And after that win, they were ranked number 5 in the country. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this in the chat, Steve. Notre Dame, I believe at that time, was ranked number 5 in the country. Following that, they go back home, and everybody, high on the Irish, huge win on the road, because Notre Dame, if we're honest, doesn't win these type of games regularly, right? They just don't. And so they go back home. They've got Northern Illinois University coming in, and Notre Dame lays a freaking egg. They blow it. They lose. I think the punt got blocked. The attempt at a game-winning field goal gets blocked at the end by NIU, and it is the worst loss of any of the contending college football playoff teams all year long. That's a MAC team. That's a team that I think ended up going like 500 in conference. That's not an FBS team, a group of 5 team. No, they beat Notre Dame. That's the biggest win in their school's history. They do it at Notre Dame, makes it even worse. Notre Dame drops like 10 spots in the rankings, 10 or 11 spots, number 16. So they have to work their way back all season. So literally, they couldn't lose anymore after that because they didn't have the toughest schedule for differing reasons. But every game after that was like a playoff game, right? Lose and you don't get in. So Notre Dame consistently is beating the snot out of everybody they play, just dog walking, beating first team ever to beat a ranked team for 6 straight calendar months in college football season. So bless you, G. So they do all that, fight their way back, end up in the college football playoff. First ever college football playoff game in the 12-team era is the first Friday night of the tournament, Indiana at Notre Dame. Notre Dame ends up beating them. That's that. Fair enough, Chuck Brewer. You are right. Absolutely. And a lot of people were kind of out on Freeman after that loss, but I kept saying, I believe in this guy, one game at a time. We'll see what he does. And, we've seen what he's done. But anyway, Notre Dame goes a game at a time, continued. They dog walking everybody they play, and they get into the playoff. First ever 12-team college football playoff. Opens at Notre Dame, right? Okay, Notre Dame wins their first game against Indiana, which was a very good team all year. Good team defensively, one of the top 10 teams offensively, one of the top 10 ranked teams in the country. Cool. They beat them. Then the big one, they go down to New Orleans to play in the Sugar Bowl. And yes, sir, Steve. Yes, sir. So they go down to New Orleans. They play in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia, the SEC champion, right? Again, the type of game Notre Dame does not win and generally gets beaten badly, bruised, and abused in, right? Hadn't won one of these games in 30 plus years, more than 3 decades. They go down there and they do their thing. They out physical the mighty SEC, and they win the Sugar Bowl, beating Georgia by 2 scores. Okay, cool. Next up, I believe that's me. They go to the Orange Bowl and they win that one, beating Penn State in a thriller, a nail biter, 27-24 to punch their ticket to the national championship game in Atlanta against Ohio State. We didn't know it was going to be Ohio State at the time. So the point is seeing what Notre Dame has been able to do, seeing how they bounce back from the worst loss probably of any of the contending teams all year long. My question would be at this point, is Notre Dame the biggest story in college football this season? Go.
They have to. They have to be. I mean, they almost have to be, unless you start talking about Florida State and how they shit the bed. So polar opposites, but they was able to win and win big against Penn State, which I didn't see that coming. But
Okay.
yeah, I didn't see it. But
I picked them. One of the biggest reasons is I don't believe in James Franklin in big games, and we know the stats on him. We don't have to go. I think he's 1-18 all time, going back to being head coach at Vanderbilt against top 5 ranked teams. He does not coach well in big games. He just doesn't. And even when he does, somehow they just never quite get over the hump. And that's a lot coming from me, a Notre Dame fan. We've been there as well, but James Franklin, he just doesn't get it done somehow, and it's tough. But I think that Notre Dame is a huge story, not just because they're winning, but the way they're doing it. They're one of the biggest brands in college football, as we know. What do we got? Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama. Probably the 5 biggest brands in college football, I'd say, right? Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. Okay, yeah. Anybody, if there's a big brand that I missed in college football, put it in the chat. Let me know. But I think they're easily one of the biggest brands, and so people love to hate them. They have a lot of fans, but they have a lot of haters too. And USC, thank you, Steve. How did I forget that? Yes, USC, great one. Yeah. So people love to hate them, but people love them too. So watching them get to this point after so many years of championship level and big game level ineptitude is really something totally different. And I think, to me, one of the biggest things, again, it was the huge loss early against NIU, and this is one of the things that you're hearing so many of the major sports, the mainstream sports media people saying, is that for whatever reason, and well, not whatever reason, I guess Marcus Freeman is a huge part of this, is that Notre Dame has become likable again, which is strange, right? As a Notre Dame fan, you're used to everyone hating them and them being unlikable, right? But a lot of people are starting to like them. It's like Steve told me when we did our show the other day, discussing Notre Dame and what they've done so far. Marcus Freeman has brought back a cool factor to Notre Dame that hasn't existed for most of our adult lives, if at all, right? They seem cool, and it's unusual, right? Are they Coach Prime cool? No, they're not that. But they are much cooler than they have been for quite some time now. And so I think it's pretty interesting to see that. And so I was thinking, right? I think they're the biggest story in college football, but I also think maybe there's an argument to be made, at least for this past season, Colorado, right? Because they literally were in contention for a college football playoff berth. The tiebreakers didn't shake out the way it were, but they could have played for the Big 12 championship. I think they had the same record as Arizona State, right? There was like a 3-way tie at the top of the Big 12, but the way the tiebreakers shook out, they didn't get in to play that game. So had they gotten into the Big 12 championship game and won, they're in the college football playoff, and they would have been one of the monster stories, right? But Coach Prime, being Coach Prime and being the gigantic personality that he is, as well as the quality football coach that he is, I think that was one of the biggest stories too. And this is some I want to touch on with you, G. This is interesting, right? I've seen, and I'm not the guy who really goes to the race thing too much, right? But it appears to me that there is, it's almost like Colorado with Coach Prime has become the the favorite college football program of many African Americans, I guess outside the SEC, right? If not, it's like Bama or Georgia. But outside of that, Coach Prime seems to be like the go-to for Colorado, and Coach Prime seem to be go-to for many African American college football fans. You think that's the case? I think that's the case.
He in Colorado, bro. I
Mm-hmm.
think I don't think. I mean, if you just look at one demographic, maybe yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's Coach Prime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hall of Fame cornerback that played many years in the NFL, and so there's a certain level, and I think he's from Atlanta. There's a certain level of
He's from Florida.
popularity, Florida, certain level of
Mm-hmm.
popularity that's going to follow him. He's a flashy player, and he speak the language. I think when people look at him, if you look at him from the standpoint of he opened his locker room up for the media to see how he either disciplined and or reward his players, and he talked to all athletes, right? Like about how to be a man at that young age, right? Some believe
Yeah.
at 18 you're a man, yeah. Some point you are, but you're still maturing. And I think because he opened his locker room up, that attracts more people, right? That Colorado probably wouldn't attract.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I try to stay away from race because I understand the world is a lot
I do
bigger
too.
than just black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's a lot bigger than black and white. But if we comparing Colorado to Notre Dame, I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
a fighting Irishman as their mascot, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, funny story. I'm at this lounge, and it's a lot of people in there. Man, I'm asking people like, "Hey, Penn State, Notre Dame, who you got?" So it's like this 6'8" white dude with I want to say red hair. He turns over and be like this. Who do you think? I have no choice. Like that, right? It's like, I have no
That was
choice.
funny. That was funny.
Yeah, yeah. I have no choice. And I was like, he probably right there. So I think I think people kind of like, they root for the home team, so to speak, right?
Okay.
Or who they
Right.
believe the home team is. That's
Mm-hmm.
just I think that's just how it is.
I think
Kind of
that's
like
human
that
nature. I'm not mad at
yeah,
that.
that cafeteria study they did with the
Mm-hmm.
military. It was like you're a new guy on a unit, and depending on who you are, and you're gonna go to whatever seat that
Mm.
people look like you or you may identify
Yeah.
with just
Yeah.
from eyeballing it. But yeah, man, weird question, but
No, so the reason I asked that question, and there's a reason I was going there. So Marcus Freeman is the second black head coach in Notre Dame history, right? Um, Obviously he's young, he's black. Well, he's black and Asian. He never forgets to mention his mom, who's Korean, but I think his dad is like a 26-year Air Force vet. But the point is, um, in America, he would be considered black, right? So he's the second black coach in the history of Notre Dame. And for whatever reason, like, and what made me think about this actually was you the other day when we were talking about it. And I was like, if you love college football, going to Notre Dame at least once should be on your bucket list. And so he was like, yeah, no, I'll go to Colorado first before I go, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, and, not
I
that there's a problem
said
with that. That's cool.
I said
Mhm.
FAMU.
No, you also said Colorado. But the point is, I just thought about it and I'm like, you're not, I'll bring up the tape.
I only remember the FAMU part.
No,
I
no,
only
and
remember
I
the
respect
FAMU.
that. It has no knock there. Like I told you, my daughter's a rattler. You know what I'm saying? But no, I just thought it was interesting because I know that you're not the only African American who kind of shares that sentiment. And I thought it was interesting because I'm like, okay, even if a lot of black people don't necessarily identify with Notre Dame, Irish Catholic and all of that. Okay, cool, but you have something now that could connect you to it the same way you have something now that could connect you to Colorado. You see what I'm saying? Because most black people weren't fans of Colorado prior to Coach Prime's arrival, right? So you get that influx of fandom there, but it didn't happen the same way with Marcus Freeman and the Irish. You see what I'm saying? So I just thought that was interesting. That's why I brought that question up. And it's not specifically directed at you. It's kind of on the whole. So I just thought that was cool, something to explore.
I think people need to have an appetite for that first and foremost. Like that has to be some reason why I get up and drive or fly on the other side of the world for some reason
Hmm.
other than a college trip with my kids to Notre
Hmm.
Dame. Like other than that, I don't have any stock in it. to do that. So that's probably why I said what I said.
But you
FAMU, I
wouldn't
can
have
understand.
do that for Colorado either. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, you're right. I would need to have an appetite for it, bro. Like, there's no
I got
reason for me to go freeze my balls off in Colorado. There's
right,
no
right, right.
reason.
I
Yeah.
got you. Yeah, no, I just thought it was interesting. But back to
Trying to
the
be messy
original
this
topic.
morning.
Huh?
Trying to be messy.
Nah. No, I just back to the original topic. I do think that for this season, that Notre Dame is the biggest story because, like I said, it's really been amazing me, like the amount of respect that I'm hearing being given to Notre Dame by the mainstream college football media, who's been pretty disrespectful to them for a long time. In fairness, they've been losing a lot of games that, you know, in a bad fashion that they should have been winning. But just the way it's changed, the turnaround, I think is very interesting. And hey, I like it, but I definitely thought it was worth discussing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm gonna put the number in the chat as usual, and I'll take a couple of calls. Huh?
You recruiting for Notre Dame? That's funny.
Nah, man, not at all. I know as somebody who's been there twice, I could say it's, like I said, it's different, man. And you don't like, of course I've been a fan since I was like 13 years old, but you don't realize like how different it is until you go there. It's just a feeling. Like people say that, but you're like, yeah, whatever. You go there and then you realize it's different. It's a different place and a different feeling. But yeah, here's the number, 904-219-8264, 904-219-8264. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on what's the biggest story in college football this year, if I didn't get this one right, or kind of what are your thoughts about Notre Dame's story in college football this year? So we'll take a couple calls on that and then we'll move on to the main topic. But yeah, I just I definitely thought the whole thing was interesting, man, because I mean, really, you might want to say Ohio State. That might be a topic because one of the big stories, because this past offseason, they spent $20 million roughly in NIL to build that team, have the most talented team in the country. Lost twice, got beaten by Michigan in a way they should not have gotten beaten, right? And so, and now here they are playing for the championship. Steve, what's going on? Good morning, my brother.
Good morning, fellas. What's happening?
Maintaining.
Not too much, man.
What up, G? Hey, congratulations on the race. I had to call and eat my crow on that before we had to talk about the biggest story in college football.
Don't worry, you can eat your crow later. We'll talk about it.
Well, I'm not calling in after that. I'm not doing all that. I ain't calling in.
I got you,
I wanted to beat you to the punch.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Notre Dame is definitely the biggest story in college football.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm biased, but trying to be objective, how can Notre Dame be the biggest story? They made it to the championship. I would agree. It's unlikely we would win it all.
Yes,
but the
I
fact
agree.
that we have a guy like Marcus who had the pitfalls of NIU, the redemption of winning out, beating the SEC champion, beating a Penn State, beating another Big Ten team, making this run with, and I hate to say it this way, but it's true, with a depleted roster.
Absolutely.
And it's no knock on the 2 deep, 3 deep guys because they've been playing out of their minds. But
yes,
it's the truth. We're missing All-Americans. It's 2 levels of the defense. We're missing most of the offensive line. Hell, our best player has been injured since the USC game on offense. So it's just, Notre Dame is the biggest story in college football. And yeah, man, I really enjoy. Now, this is coming from a white guy. I know the race stuff is touchy.
It is.
I enjoy hearing your guys' discussion on the uplift of what Notre Dame is currently, having a man like Marcus at the helm, being successful, and I think that's what Notre Dame historically is about. It is about inclusion. There's a lot of history that goes with Notre Dame where I understand how you think Notre Dame Irish Catholic, you assume white, and that's fair. But if you go through the history, Notre Dame has always been about inclusion. Catholic, by definition, means universal. There's the strong African Ethiopian Catholic Church. So it shouldn't be this automatic all Notre Dame white. Notre Dame has history back in the day where they fought against KKK and segregation, stuff like that. So I'm just happy to see it all come together. A man like Marcus, he embraces everything about the university, and he can lead us into the future of football, socially, and on the field. So it's a great feeling. It's a great thing to see. Couldn't be happier.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say, I actually thought about this, right? Because I know, I've had this argument with a few people in the past, right? And a lot of Black people in America are fans of the SEC schools because the bulk of Black people in America live in the South. That's just where the numbers are. And it's so funny to me that these guys will, SEC, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, whatever, and get on me for being a diehard Notre Dame guy. And I'm like, you do realize that Notre Dame was integrated a long time before all those schools you love, right? I don't know, but
way before him.
right. But it is
we
what
were
it is.
talking a little bit last night about within the ideology of Christianity. I know there's a lot of Protestantism down there in the South.
Yeah.
But yeah, Notre Dame, in overall, speaking as a Catholic, the worldview is very different when it comes to race on those two denomination differences.
Right.
The history just proves it. I'm not exactly sure, but like when you're talking about integration, like powerhouses like Alabama, I don't believe they started integrating until the
70s. That's correct.
So it's like, and I get it though. I mean, things change.
Yes.
And it's good.
Yes.
Obviously, progress in that department is necessary. But you're right. There's a lot of history that goes in, like you say. Once you peel the layers back, there is like an allegiance in the SEC, but it's like, hey man, not all these schools have the best history when it comes to certain social matters like that.
There you go. Well, thank you, Steve, man. I appreciate your commentary, and I know that Mike, you did a good job handling that. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I tried, man. I know it's a touchy one. But it's all love, man. It's all love.
Absolutely.
It's hard to have those uncomfortable conversations, but I think that's how people grow.
Absolutely. You got anything else before I let you go, man?
No, man. Go Irish.
Go Irish, always. No doubt. All right, Steve, man. Thank you, man.
Fellas, have a good morning. I'll be in the chat.
You too, man. Enjoy.
I think this is my last point. I think one of the biggest reasons why that a lot of people view Notre Dame the way they do, besides the mascot, 3.5% African American population on campus plays a big role in that. The minority, their diversity and inclusion, they probably need to step their game up and probably recruit or do a better job of getting more people that look like everybody else.
Great point.
3.5% is crazy.
Did you check Alabama or Georgia?
No.
Yeah. I'm not trying to take a shot. I would wager that those percentages are probably similar, maybe worse.
Well, I think 5% is like a national average.
I think you're right about it.
I think 5% is a national average. So that's. But it could be that cost associated with that. Not saying that that's the case, but it could be the cost associated with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I get it. Let's see. Give me 1 second as you brought that up. I'm looking it up right now. This is 2018. Wow, really wooed JD4? Was that necessary? Was that necessary, man? That's cold, bro. That's cold. Too soon, bro. You see what we put in there?
Yeah. The Phantom.
Yeah. That's tough. Oh my goodness. All right, looking this up right here. Okay, so as of 9 months ago, according to College Vine, Georgia actually has a Black African American enrollment of 8.5%. So that's pretty good. I give credit where it's due on that one. I wouldn't say pretty good, but
Yeah,
as in terms of above national average. So you know,
but I
that's
mean,
not.
the Notre Dame story is still a really really big story. Not to get off topic,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I think those guys really did a good job
Hmm.
with less, as Steve mentioned. Um,
Yeah. Just man, the injuries, man. The injuries. It's crazy just watching game after game, guys going down. And I kept wondering at what point is it all going to be too much? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But
next
somehow,
man up.
next man up. It's beautiful.